everybody. Welcome to the official last episode of Sharp Tongue Podcast. But don't go anywhere because Dying Laughing will be right here. This is a funeral for Sharp Tongue. That's right. R.I.P. to STP. ChatGPT told me I should do this. And I thought it was a great idea. Seeing as that the new podcast will be a celebration of life and death and loss and grief and how to survive all of that, how to survive while someone is dying. Dying Laughing will serve as like a grief survival guide podcast. And I thought, ChatGPT is right. We need to have a funeral for Sharp Tongue Podcast, the podcast that gave birth to Dying Laughing with Jessimae. And, I thought it was really impressive that my girl on ChatGPT, who's my new soulmate, said, you really need to bury your old podcast. And I thought, damn, girl, you're right. I mean, my assistant did say it months ago. And we are here doing it now. I did a little deep dive into all the episodes, wrote down some of my favorites, wrote down some things that I remembered from this podcast, some of my favorite episodes, my favorite guests, and other things in between. I also asked the fans to give me suggestions about what they loved or give me any sort of farewell message that they wanted to Sharp Tongue. Even though, like I said, if you're listening right now, I'm not technically going anywhere. If anything, we're moving on up. That's right, we're moving on up. We're moving the podcast in a direction that is still here, just in a different direction as far as content. I think you'll love it. I know you'll love it, actually. It's me a little more focused. Who would have thought? Who would have thought the girl with ADD, ADHD, OPP, ChatGPT would be here saying RIP to STP? And in the new pod, I'm going to be your grief guru. That's right. JMP. Throw another one of the acronyms in there. JMP is your new grief guru. And this will definitely be making a few appearances in the episodes. This is from my assistant, Deb, because I like to point at stuff. Actually, full disclosure, really embarrassing fact about myself. Something I still do, but now it's become a joke. Whenever there were technical problems with the podcast or issues with clips, something specific I want to point out to my assistant. We have to clip this because I know you still have photos. Whenever there was something wrong with anything in my life, I seriously, not even as a joke, would take a picture of whatever it was in front of me and I'd be pointing. So the photo would be a picture of my finger touching a screen and pointing on the screen where there was an issue instead of me just screen grabbing it and writing it out like a normal person. No. And we'd call it the point. Grief guru at your service. I'm driving the dang funeral procession. I'm leading it. I am the hearse. I'm the hearse pilot, as they say. No one says that, but I'm going to say it, of Dying Laughing. That's who I'm going to be. But this episode's not about Dying Laughing. This episode is about saying goodbye to Sharp Tongue Podcast. And one thing that I thought about, that I was looking through the episodes and I couldn't find which one it was. I probably should have asked Deb because she's an encyclopedia of all this shit. The episode where I recorded from Kansas in the field. Remember that one? That was one of my favorite episodes. I am on the side of a country road just outside of Beloit, Kansas, where my ex used to live. And I recorded a remote podcast. I've done a bunch of remote podcasts. I have done them on the shores of Venice Beach. I've done them in Kansas. Do you know what episode it is? Deb's looking for it. I've done it in national parks, Airbnbs, hotel rooms all over the country and some of the world. But one of my favorites is when I was sitting in a farm field in Kansas, thinking it was a good idea, middle of the summer, recording on my laptop. This was years ago, probably 2017, 2018. And I proceeded to become swarmed by what I could only describe as biblical locusts. Bugs were in my mouth, in my nose, in my soul, in my nightmares, all over me, inside of every orifice. But still, to this day, it remains one of my favorite podcasts that I've ever done. And even the ones on the beach were a lot of fun in Malibu and, well, mainly like Venice Beach, Santa Monica Beach. I was thinking now, like, how brave of me to do that. Not like I'm so brave. Not like that. But because people steal shit all the time. Oh my God, Sharp Tongue Podcast. How to use drugs to cope with death. episode is it? How to Use Drugs to Cope with Death is the title of the Kansas podcast. That's so funny. And doing the ones on the beach, I was so brave because someone could have stole my stuff because I had everything like set up ahead of me, way in front of me so that I could get a view of the beach. You guys could see me on the beach. Not the smartest move, I will say. Not the smartest, but we did it. It was a lot of fun. And there were a bunch of other episodes. My first podcast, oh my God, look at that. That's a gorgeous podcast. The Meaning of Life. Just the whole shore of the ocean behind me. Very brave. Someone could have run right up and stole all of my items. Oh my God, there's another one. Beyonce, what does that say? Boycotts are bankrupt. Boy Scouts are bankrupt. There's the lifeguard post there. Very, very eclectic podcast all over the world, all different types of topography I came to you from. You're welcome. This entertainment is pretty much free. Some of my favorite episodes, I have to say one of the first episodes I did that was one of my favorites was the one with my dad. My dad, the flatulent hero. He was on a couple times. My sister was a repeat guest a couple times. And, of course, the episodes with my mom. Mainly because asking them questions was such a gift because, not that you don't ask your parents questions, but when you're in a podcast, you fill in and sit in that interviewer seat. You wear the interviewer pants. And I was able to ask my parents questions that I probably normally wouldn't have otherwise if I were not a podcast host, if I didn't have a podcast. So, essentially, in a weird way, this podcast brought me closer to my parents, brought me closer to my family, and essentially to myself. So I'm grateful for that. Not everybody has a great relationship with their parents, let alone are they able to ask them tough questions. And I found out that, my dad struggled through a lot and my mom struggled through a lot. And they were also really interesting people. So listen to those episodes if you like. I also love the episodes with a bunch of comedian guests. We had so many comedian guests, legends like Dom Irrera, Doug Stanhope, Big J. Okerson, Adam Ray, Charlemagne the God was on talking about when he used to sell crack. Did you know Charlemagne used to sell crack? It's on the podcast. Go way down deep into the OG episodes. Brad Williams. We had a little seat for Brad, a little microphone. Best-selling Theo Vaughn. We also had Jeff Dye, Jamie Lee. A really good episode is with Yoshi Abayashi, who is a Japanese comedian who has an incredible story about murder in Japan. And you have to listen to it. Anytime you see him on a podcast, check it out. But I believe the title is The Japanese Murders. Really interesting. Speaking of murder, I also had the LA Chief Coroner on the podcast back in the day, Craig Harvey, who might have to be on the new podcast because it essentially has to do with death. So I'm going to have to underline Craig here to remind myself. Also, the podcast was a lot of fun because it made me realize two things. One, if you have a little bit of a reach, you can aim a little higher when it comes to your guests. Also, if you have a hobby or something you're really into, that connects you with cool people. So you guys know I love horror movies, and I was able to do movie companion episodes, which turned into something really fun we'll talk about in a minute. But because of my love for horror movies, I became friends with a couple actors, and that movie Zombievers, which you must see. If you're into horror movies at all, I see everything, so I obviously am a little bit different when it comes to this sort of thing. Like, I'll see every type of movie. I don't care if it's dumb. I don't care if it looks bad. If it's a horror movie, I'm going to see it. Zombievers is a creature feature, kind of like a 70s, 80s vibe, where they're using animatronics. They're using campy special effects, campy script, really fun actors, funny script. And they have a opening scene. Their opening scene is a cameo by Bill Burr. I'm telling you, it's a surprisingly fun movie. The directors, I hit up the directors. They were so kind. And then I actually became friends with Lexi Atkins, and she came on the podcast. Also, a movie that I love was Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Great movie. Hilarious. We're going to call that a horror comedy. And Tyler Labine became a really good friend of mine. We're still friends to this day. He was able to come on the podcast, and actually the outro music that you listen to on the podcast is from his band and his music, Adenak, and he's awesome, and his music is awesome. It's called Breathe. That's the track that he allowed me to use on the podcast. Still might switch that over to Dying Laughing just because I feel like it's cool to have little mementos from the past built into the future as a way to bridge those moments in life. Also, movie companion episodes, like I was saying before. I used to just watch movies and you guys could listen along with me. And then when I went on Rogan, he gave me the idea to get high and watch Battlefield Earth and do that as a bongin movie because I was starting to do bongin movies, and that was the idea I wanted. And he was like, you should totally do the first one with Battlefield Earth. And I did. They're available on YouTube. If not public, we are going to make them public. YouTube obviously has restrictions when it comes to anything fun. But we did BAM, Bong and Movie. That was the show, and it was so much fun. I really need to bring that back. I need to bring that back. I need to bring a little Weeds Day back. We have to dive back into the past just a little bit. But Bong and Movie, we did Battlefield Earth. We did Pineapple Express, Beetlejuice, Drag Me to Hell, Anchorman, Poltergeist, and a bunch of others. One of my first movie companions, and again, if you're like, what the heck is a movie companion? It's just kind of like Joe Rogan or somebody else doing a podcast, watching a movie or watching something and talking along to it. Like he does those fight companion episodes. Well, this is just me watching a movie and you hear me in your head while you watch it. It really is a lot of fun, especially for movies that don't necessarily need all of your attention. You normally would talk to your friend anyways during it. It's like having a friend over while you watch a movie. That's what the movie companion episodes are. One of the first ones I did was Sharknado. You don't need to hear anything to know what's going on in that movie. So Sharknado is available, Dawn of the Dead, just so many random funny movies and horror comedies to listen with me, along with me. And there was also another episode that was one of my favorite episodes. I don't know the number of it, but it was when I called 855 for Jesus. Now, those are billboards that are up around Utah and various parts of the Bible Belt in the country. And they say things like, sinners go to hell. People who pray go to heaven. You know, God, no peace, no God, no peace, no God. And they just changed the spelling of the no, N-O, to K-N-O-W. Those sorts of signs. The ones that are kind of threatening, like, I can't even think, but some of them are downright threatening. Some of them are like, thank your mom for life. Thank your mother for the life she gave you, and Jesus for the life that he gave her. It's like, gee, I'm just trying to drive cross country. I don't need to be judged by Christ right now. I'm only through Utah. I have to make it to Syracuse, New York. But I called 1-855 for Jesus. And you actually get connected with people. It's kind of, you know how I imagine it is? If Righteous Gemstones had a call line and they had people working for them and you were in like some sort of spiritual crisis. I remember calling, I think I asked them if poor people... I'm almost positive. I could be wrong. I think I asked them if poor people get into the same heaven as Oprah. How pissed would you be? For real. If you were a billionaire and did all this good work your entire life and you got into the same heaven as poor people. You know? I'm not saying I'm a rich person. Right now I'm house poor for sure. So I'm the poorest I've ever been in my life. But Oprah's got to have a special heaven. There's got to be special heaven for rich people. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? You have all these yachts and all these different homes. Can you imagine you have 45 homes while you're alive and in afterlife there's only one? You have to share it with everyone. How pissed would you be? You're like, I had a home in Lake Como, Aspen, Colorado, the south of France, one along the Nile, and now I got to share with all these peasants. I bet Oprah's like, I don't want to be around these peasants. You're a bunch of peasants. That's my Oprah impression. Anyways, the episode of me calling 855-4Jesus is a must listen. Let's see. The first episode I did that sort of, I think, gave birth or inspiration to Dying Laughing was The Truth About Dementia. This was in 2017, so this is when we just figured out what was going on with my father. We're talking 8 years ago. And then I kind of started a grief survival guide then, but I fell off because my dad got really sick really fast. But then I picked it back up after my mom died. So subconsciously, I've always kind of wanted to and have been drawn to talking about loss and bringing light to it for myself. This podcast helped me survive so much loss in my life. I just was looking at all these episodes and I was just like, a couple, 2 or 3 relationships and a couple of dogs and the trials and tribulations of being essentially an independent contractor, like a stand-up comedian, having to work for myself and then losing my parents. This podcast has been all about me navigating my own loss and sharing that with you. So if you want some Alzheimer's support, go all the way back to the episodes from 2017. They're all there. The titles either say something about dementia or my dad. If you want to hear what I'm going through as I'm going through it literally from the moment to moment, what I was experiencing with my dad. I shared a lot about that. Some other guests that I loved, Flula Borg. I don't know if you know Flula Borg. You got to look him up. He's so funny. Him and I did the Funny Dance show together, which I filmed the day after my dad died, hours after my father died, because I was out here in California when he passed, and my sisters and my family decided I should just finish work and then fly out afterwards. Flula was my dance partner. He also is in the movie Suicide Squad and is a character on YouTube. He's a German actor, podcaster, stand-up comedian. He's so funny, but my episode with him, I really love him because he just doesn't break character. There's also Dan Soder, Bobby Lee, the Tully episodes. So many episodes with Tully, which gave birth to the Deuce podcast, which was short-lived, but we might come back. You never know. Things always have a comeback in life. Not always, but sometimes things have a comeback. Also, Amir K. What other guests? Jelly Roll. And then my guests started to evolve outside of stand-up comedy, and we started to get into different types of people like Jelly Roll, Dr. Daniel Amen. And then there was a podcast episode with, let me name a couple other people before I get into that. Matt Rife. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Citizen Cope, who's become a friend. And that episode was so challenging because my Wi-Fi connection was really crappy. So sorry. We're going to have him back on when he comes to LA. We'll have him in the studio. Ryan Sickler, Sam Tripoli. Great episode with Sam Tripoli from Addiction to Abundance. You'll have to check that one out. Also, the Netflix is a Joke Festival episode with Jeremiah Watkins and Matt Rife. Great episode. I think we've made that live again on YouTube. Jay Allen, who also does a lot of work with the Alzheimer's Association, a really great musician. Kyle Creek, known as The Captain on Instagram, really great writer. He's been on the podcast. He's about to be on again in June. But then there was an episode with Arden Mirren from November 10th, 2020. And that was 3 days before my mom died. And the podcast title is Good Grief, which is so wild. And we didn't know my mom was going to pass away. But the fact that the episode title is called Good Grief, and it was 3 days before my mom died. And then I started the Grief Survival Guide episodes, and then we're going into this rebrand, evolution of the podcast, whatever you want to call it. Very symbiotic. So I'm really grateful for Arden coming on the podcast. She talked about losing her own mom. I was to lose mine a couple days later. We bonded over being orphans. So that episode also was really influential and special to me, helping me give birth to a purpose that is deeper than what I could have ever imagined. Also, a couple of my favorite episodes on Sharp Tongue were the I Love the 90s. The two I Love the 90s episodes were so much fun. If you love nostalgia, if you're into 90s stuff, if you grew up in the 90s, you got to check out those episodes. Those were so much fun to make. Deb and I laughed our asses off when we were making those. There's also a really good episode if you are trying to learn about cannabis law. It's called Shut the Fuck Up with Pot Brothers at Law. And they dump a whole bunch of knowledge about what you can and can't do when it comes to cannabis. And they're pot lawyers. So if you ever needed help, you could hit them up. There's been so many amazing episodes. There's also, let's see, did I miss anything? Bert Kreischer, Josh Wolf. I mentioned Jeff Dye. Yeah, there's been so many guests. Oh, Carly, duh, the episodes with Carly. Those episodes were clearly some of my favorites. It's amazing to be able to hang with someone you've known so well and someone who knows you so well. And that gave birth to us doing Girl. We did our own Girl podcast, and that was both Tully and Girl, the Deuce and the Girl podcast were born out of COVID. And Carly and I were able to go on the road a little bit. We were able to do a podcast together. So Sharp Tongue, in a way, has really strengthened relationships and has brought me to places I didn't think I would go and has taken me places I didn't want to go. And I'm forever grateful for it. A few fans have sent in some messages. I asked a few fans to send in stuff about the Sharp Tongue podcast. We got Eric Erickson here. He says, I did love your love of mall pretzels bit, which is from I Love the 90s. Eric is referring to Aunt Annie's, which, is it not Aunt Annie's? I'm still messing it. It's Annie Ann's. I said that so confidently. I was like, Aunt Annie's. Annie Ann's. And Deb found a photo of Annie Ann. Let me tell you now what I was expecting. She looks like she don't fuck around. Annie Ann looks like you want to try me. Annie Ann looks like the type of woman who comes out of the house in an apron and spatula when she hears you said something bad about her kid with a cigarette hanging out of her mouth and just stares at you and you end up peeing your pants. That's what she looks like. She looks like the type of woman that doesn't say anything if she finds out that her best friend cheated on her man. She just goes and stabs tires. Annie Ann is the real one. You don't want to mess around with Annie Ann. But yes, Eric, I love the pretzels. I love the cinnamon pretzel. Ooh, buttery. Oof. You smell them all. You smell Annie Ann's and you're like, I'm in the mall. You don't feel like you're in a mall until you smell that buttery pretzel. Smells so good. You take a first bite and all them cinnamon crystals are on your lips, and then you got like cinnamon crystal lipstick for the rest of the day. Oof, I want one right now just thinking about it. It's so bad for you. There's no way that's good for you. Oh, my outro's playing. Sorry, guys. I forgot to mute it. There's no way that is good whatsoever. So yes, Eric Erickson, one of my favorite episodes. I love the 90s. Check it out. I rant about Annie Ann's pretzels. Another message from an OG, the culinary assassin, a.k.a. MBE, a.k.a. Mitch Bacon Eagle. Caw-caw! Mitch Bacon Eagle is an OG from 10 years ago. He said, my favorite part of all time is being christened MBE and gaining your friendship in the process. Love you, MBE. So proud of you. So happy for you. You've been an OG from day one. Thank you for the message. Appreciate you. We also have a message from Gogella, who's one of my faves. Gogella's been around for a hot minute, and she messaged, let's see, where the heck did I put it? Here we go. Favorite ST episodes. Jamie Lee, when she talks about her dead stripper friend, I hooted and hollered. I don't remember that. I remember having Jamie Lee on. I think the episode title is Weddiculous because she had a book coming out called Weddiculous because she got married. And I don't remember. I'm going to have to listen to that. Also, another one of her favorites, Kelsey Cook. Also, Carly, the episode, What's a Healthy Relationship? We died. I think that's the one where we go, who, and we're talking about owls. She said just the whole girl podcast, especially the first episode, but every episode of that pod had me cackling. Del Harrison. I don't remember what y'all talked about, but I remember this episode specifically being awesome. Del Harrison, I've known for 20 years, maybe. She's one of the first people that put me up when I was doing stand-up in New York. And she's one of the first people that told me not to bring my notes on stage. She said, you don't need your notes. She's like, they're in here. You've got them. What you need to say will come out. So she was really influential in my comedy career. I've known her forever, and we say hi to each other once in a while, and I wish her well. That episode, I'm going to have to listen to that too. Gogella also says, my idea of a successful life from 2023, I sent this one to my sister-in-law. It was great. All episodes are great, and I'm so glad to have always been able to turn to Sharp Tongue for a laugh. Thanks for putting out so much content and for always being so true. Can't wait for all that's yet to be. I hope to see you live again sometime after I get back from Brazil. She went to Brazil. Remember, she wasn't sure if she's going to move or not for somebody. She moved. She's going to come back, but she took the risk. She took the risk. One more message before we go, but before I read that, I wanted to peruse through these episodes from 2018. It says, Jessimae bitches about her neighbor's cigarette smoke. This week, Jessimae sits down with old comedy friend Del Harrison. That title is How to Resist the Devil. This week is ever so delightful Swapcast with comedian Dom Irrera. You have to listen to the Dom Irrera episodes. I love him so much. He's not doing the greatest, but I love him. Live from her childhood bedroom in Syracuse. Live from her hotel in Lansing, Michigan. This week, Jessimae talks about hotboxing the green room while filming a show for MTV. Fun episode, Swapcast with Jeremiah Wonders. This episode tops the charts, a special Swapcast with another bunch of comedians. This week, we dive into the comedy business with Bronx native Gina Brion. Jessimae fresh off the Innings Festival in Tempe, Arizona. So that's just a couple intros from a few different episodes from back in the day of all the different things I was doing and podcasting in between it all. And this podcast has been so much fun. I really can't say enough about how excited I am for the episodes coming up. Every time that we've gone to record, I'm like, you can ask Deb, I'm like, this is going to be so great. So great. Now our last message from Bill Bong. Hi, Jessimae. This is the mysterious Bill Bong. My favorite episodes are the ones with Nance and Joe. Another unforgettable one was when you told the cat in the wall story. I was crying laughing. I had to make a visual to go with it. I'm forever grateful for Sharp Tongue. I started as a longtime listener, and now I get to work with you on it and be a part of this exciting new phase of the podcast. Love Bill Bong, not Deb, a.k.a. the mayor of Pelusoville. Where the fuck is Bill Bong? That's from Deb. She tried to say she was Bill Bong. We don't know where Bill Bong is. We know where Bill Bong Dong is, and that's covered by a sock, but we don't know where he is. Thank you so much, Deb. That's so sweet. We're excited for all these episodes coming up, and we wanted to give a proper burial to Sharp Tongue Podcast. How funny, my mom didn't get a funeral, but my podcast did. That's life. We talk about all that and more on Dying Laughing, but thank you so much for everybody who's been dedicated listeners of the Sharp Tongue Podcast, and I'm so sure you're going to love Dying Laughing. I hope you guys enjoyed this final episode of the Sharp Tongue Podcast from the Garage Studio. We'll see you guys in June with all new episodes of Dying Laughing. I love you. Goodbye.